Now, whether they like it or not, the Conservative Party's fate at the next election will be closely tied to the fortunes of the Brexit Party. And their leader, Nigel Farage, joins us now from Westminster. Thank you very much for being on the programme, Mr Farage. Now, I just want to ask you about the whip being withdrawn from your party, from one of your MEPs, Andrew England-Kerr, has had the party whip withdrawn due to irreconcilable differences regarding a likely conflict of interest. What exactly has happened?
Well, he is an MEP, but he also is a shareholder in several businesses. And in our view, one or two of the things that he said and done as an MEP could be seen to potentially have brought him personal gain through his business. And that, to us, is just not acceptable. We made these rules very clear to our MEPs when they came. So some will say that we've acted harshly, but we want to have the highest possible standards, and we're not happy with what he's done.
What specifically has he done then?
Well, as I say, he has acted in a way, as an MEP, making comments about a business and a product that he has a direct financial investment in, and we think that's unacceptable.
OK, thank you. Now, it looks like an election may not be too far away. Are you open to some kind of pact with the Conservatives, and what are you looking for?
Well, you know I am. Of course I am. I mean, I've made this very, very clear over the last few weeks. Whilst we're ready, we've got 635 candidates, vetted, approved, on the list, out there now campaigning, and we're ready to fight this election. Of course we are, you know, and we're the party that believes in a clean break Brexit, because that's the only way we can honour the referendum. And we've said that if Boris Johnson's party goes for a clean break, then of course we ought in those circumstances to have a non-aggression pact. And actually, if that did happen, Johnson would win a very big parliamentary majority. So the answer is yes, but only if the policy is right. Our concern, our deep concern, is that he wants to revisit and reheat Mrs May's deal, the new European treaty, and that just would not be Brexit. In fact, that would be a surrender act.
I just want to pull you up on the clean break Brexit idea. It's a phrase that we hear quite a lot. It wouldn't be a clean break, would it? If we leave without a deal, we'll be straight back round the negotiating table with the EU to try and work out the future trading relationship with our biggest trading partner. And in the meantime, there'd be disruption. It wouldn't be clean, would it?
Well, I don't buy the disruption argument at all. You know, when you get the bosses of both the ports of Calais and Dover saying they are 100% prepared for trade on WTO terms, because it just needs one more piece of paperwork, then I think we shouldn't listen to the scare stories too much. And as far as doing a trade deal is concerned, well, yes, you're right, of course. You know, life is very easy with a free trade deal and without quota. The problem is, the Conservative government never, ever asked for it. We've had 3.25 years, most of it under Mrs May, of attempting to tie us very closely to the single market and customs union. So the only way you can talk about a sensible trade deal, you know, a Canada plus deal, or call it what you will, is first to leave and then to operate on that basis. And when we're doing that, of course, we won't just be talking to the European Union, we'll be talking to a much bigger, wider, and in some ways, much more exciting world.
So, just to go back to the idea of a pact with the Conservatives, I can't help thinking that the reason you're talking about a pact is because you know that if Boris Johnson goes into the next election promising a no-deal Brexit if necessary, the Brexit Party are really going to struggle. Now, the Conservative Party haven't said that they want a pact with you. In fact, they said the opposite. So have you actually had any conversations about it with them? Well,
look, here's the point. If you look at the European elections where, you know, the 6-week-old party won the national polls, look where we scored the highest. We scored the highest in the northeast of England. We scored the highest in parts of South Wales. We were getting our biggest scores in Labour areas. These are parts of the country that the Conservative Party have never won, are not going to win, and yet we are the challengers in those seats. So there is a very grown-up way of approaching this. And furthermore, you know, in those marginal constituencies, there is polling evidence that says 30% of Labour Leave voters would, if I said to them, hold your nose, vote Conservative in this election, in those marginals, I could actually personally help to swing some for Boris. Now, look, I estimate he'd have a majority of 60 to 100 seats. Professor John Curtis says it would certainly be 40 seats. So here is a way here is a way for Boris to get a big, workable majority, and we can help with that. And we're happy to help with that, but it's got to be the right policy.
Now, we know that you've felt the pull of Westminster before. Are you going to be standing in this election?
I don't feel the pull of Westminster particularly, no. But yes, of course I'll stand, and I will, I will lead the charge on behalf of the Brexit Party. And we're in a position here where, if we get to the 1st of November and we haven't left the European Union, you will see support for the Brexit Party rise considerably. And I do think in those circumstances we've got a very, very important role to play.
So where are you going to stand then? Are you looking?
Oh, I haven't said yet, because it would be the most enormous distraction. I will wait until right at the end.
Give us a clue.
No, I don't want to do that, because what would happen is, as soon as I announce it, hundreds of thousands of pounds would be spent in that constituency. There is, as we found out in the past, no electoral law in this country that's worth a light. So no, I will leave it right to the end.
Now, just finally, there's been a lot of concern in Westminster this week about language in political debate and whether or not it is fueling the abuse of MPs, threats to themselves, threats to their families. Now, I know this happens on all sides. I know that you yourself have been targeted by some of this stuff previously as well. But I just want to have a look at something that you said earlier this week in a speech in Newport. You criticised overpaid pen pushers in Whitehall who are not doing a neutral job. And then you said, once Brexit is done, we'll take the knife to them. I mean, is that not, if not only a deeply inappropriate thing to say, even a dangerous thing to say?
Well, you've got Labour MPs who specifically have said they would knife Jeremy Corbyn. You've got all sorts of extraordinary things.
I'm talking about what you said.
Yes, it would have been much better. It would have been better. It would have been better to say axe. I should have said, we'll take the axe to Whitehall, because that's a more traditional term, although you can go back to Harold Macmillan, who was known as Mac the Knife, if you wanted to. No, axe would have been a better term. But equally, you could still say to me, well, that's an aggressive phrase. Here's the point. All of this is a massive distraction that is coming from the Remainers, who want to halt the democratic process in this country. That is what is going on here. Parliament was recalled. It seemed to spend an inordinate amount of time discussing this subject, and then they all packed up early and went home.